Hello and welcome to LB Educates. Previously, we looked into our first automation script and how we could interact with elements, how we could interact with browsers, and how we can invoke the browsers and perform our automation tasks. Also, we did some setting up of environment and our pom.xml file and all that stuff on Java. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to look into a few of the annotations that are quite helpful while we're using JUnit as library. And we will be looking into the different ways to work with those locators, specifically XPath. This is going to be our session for today. So let's start. Previously, what we did was we actually created a class with the name first automation script, and include we included our main method here where all of our automation script was present. Now, this seems quite a daunting task at this moment, reason being that if there are executions that needs to be performed, or maybe if there is some structure that we need to follow, then it's not there yet, right? So for that structure to exist, we need some predefined methods or predefined functions that help us organize this set of code that we are seeing right now here, and that actually helps us in execution. So we'll start with that first. Those are called annotations. Now, when we work with annotations, there are several types of annotations that we're going to work with today. So first thing is we need to segregate this set of code into three different sections. Now we already have created those three sections, and I'm going to explain these sections first, and then I'll do the execution after that. Okay, so if we look into this highlighted part, now these three, the line of code only executes the browser and it maximizes the window of the browser. Then we have this set of code which actually invokes the URL. This line of code here finds the username. This line of code finds the password field, and this line of code clicks on it. And the rest of the thing is just making sure that we have actually logged into our correct page and we're on our dashboard. And this just last line bit tells us that we need to close the browser. Okay, but this looks all cramped up. We need to make it more structural and make it more readable and understandable for the people who are going to look into or learn this code further. For that reason, we actually use annotations. So when it comes to annotation, what I'm going to do now is let's start with this first annotation. I'm going to import this, and inside this, I'm going to come up with a class. My first auto. Well, I already have that, so let's just name it setup. And I'm naming it setup for a reason being that I'm going to put this line of code here. Also, I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to make this public. Now, why I'm doing that, I'll explain that in a bit. And let's just, okay. So making this public is the reason because I would be using this WebDriver variable over and over again in my next methods. So making so if I just put it inside the setup method here, so it will be only accessible by the setup method, but I want to use the driver variable here all across my script. So that's the reason I'm making this public, right? So how about I just call this annotation before. Now, reason being is that anything that will any during automation testing, anything that's going to happen that is going to happen on a browser, and also a URL needs to be there. So I'm just putting in a before annotation here. By the way, they are also called hooks. So now what's going to happen is, no matter what test execution is going to happen here, the first things first that's going to run is this particular method, right? Now I'm going to make another method, and I'm going to name it source demo first. You can name it anything you want. I'm just naming it whatever's coming on my head. And I'll just pick this set of code from here till here, and I'll just paste it here, right? And lastly, I'm going to, now this here is a test execution method. So I'm going to name it test. And as soon as I mark this with a test annotation, you can see that this play button appears. Now, when this play button appears, it means that this is an executionable method. We can execute this, right? Okay. Now, the third thing is, every time a test execution happens, the browser needs to close. Regardless your test passes or your test fails, the browser always needs to open before anything has to happen. And once it is completed, the browser needs to close. So for that, I'm going to use an after method, after annotation, and I'll name it public void teardown. And I'm going to put java.quit inside this, and I don't need this anymore. So the the benefit for using these annotations is they make our code more structured. So as you can see, it is now more structured. Now inside the before annotation, I have my browser set up. Inside the test annotation, I have my actual test execution, and inside the after annotation, I have my quit. I can actually quit my browser. So let's try to run this. I need to compile it first, and let's try to run it. So as you can see, now this has successfully run, and I can run it from either of the. I can just run this class, and it's going to run perfectly fine. Right. So this was our first agenda for this video. Now, the second agenda of this video is related to the different locators that could be worked with while we're automation testing. Previously, we actually looked into IDs and some already created XPaths. So when it comes to XPath, in this from this point onwards, we'll be looking into how XPaths could be extracted, or you can actually create your own XPaths while you're at it, right? So when it comes to, let's assume that I am on this Swag Labs page, and I want to identify the locator of this particular button. So the traditional method is to just right click on it, go to inspect, and while you're on the inspect, we actually explain that in our previous video that it comes with a CSS line of code that identifies this particular button, right? Now, when it comes to this button, let me just put it this way. So when it comes to this button, it has a unique identification that is called an XPath. Now, this XPath is you can actually get this XPath by right clicking on the line of code, go to copy, and you can copy XPath from here. right? So I'm going to copy this XPath from here, and I'll just try to get, let's try to click on this. So find element by XPath, and it already picks it up. Yeah, let's see if it's the correct XPath. Oh, no, it wasn't. So this is the correct XPath for this button, right? So that's one thing. You can actually get it this way, or there are different Google Chrome plugins that you could use. Well, for my ease, I actually use Selector Hub. So for Selector Hub, you can get a list of different locators and elements that could come quite in handy and makes your job really fast. So when it comes to Selectors Hub, you can actually get that plugin very easily. So all you have to do is to search for Selector Hub, and you can just go to their website and you can add it or install this plugin. So I already have that installed right here. So you can just install it. And once you install it, you need to restart your browser again. And once you restart it, you can find it in the console here. So, if you wish to get access to the Selectors Hub, you could just right click on it and you got Selectors Hub right here. You can also copy your XPath from here, or you want detailed inspection, is you could just inspect it and you'll find your Selectors Hub um, pinned here. You could just click on here and you can just get all of these XPath for any of the elements that you want to work with. So that's the second way to actually get you. And I've got my to get your XPaths or IDs or locators, whatever you're looking for. You can just copy this relative XPath from here and you can just paste it like this. And there we go. Okay. Actually, there are two types of XPaths which are commonly used. The first one is absolute XPath, and the other one is relative XPath. So the difference between a relative, that's one of the interview questions as well, by the way. So the difference between a relative XPath and an absolute XPath is that of a relative XPath is mostly you can mostly begins with two forward slashes. That's one of the identifications, right? While an absolute XPath starts with a single forward slash, right? Uh, a relative XPath mostly begins from the direct targeted button, while absolute XPath starts from the root folder, root point, right? Okay. There's also a third way that in through which you can actually create your own XPaths, and that is you can just go to this website and you can use contain method. Then and how that works, let's find out. So uh, when it comes to contain, all you have to do is type in two forward slashes. Let's see what resources are available for this add to cart button for me. So this is the line of CSS line of code that I'm looking for, and there are different tags available for identification of this add to cart button. So what we do is we start with two forward slashes asterisk. You open the bracket and actually open this bracket, type in contains, open round bracket, and let's see what do we have here. Well, that's the thing that I'm doing right now here is only specifically when you do not find a correct XPath or correct identification element, right? Why? Otherwise, there's actually no need to do it. It's the elements are mostly available easily. So when I'm getting class here, oh yeah, sorry. just follow this method. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like this, and the class name is this. So when I'm going to close it, yeah, as you can see that this has been highlighted. But the thing is, it's giving me one of 6 elements which are identified by this XPath, and I need just one of these. Okay, so while creating an XPath like this, it shows actually 6 values, and I just need something more unique for this add to cart button, right? So maybe this class attribute or tag is not what we're actually looking for. Let's try to work with name instead, and let's see how that goes. Well, of course, now if we already have that name available, we don't need to create this XPath. But this now, this may apply to different scenarios, like you might not have a name or maybe an ID available. So in that case, you'll have to create an XPath like this. Okay, so I guess name's not working either. Let's try to get something different. Let's try to get ID instead. So there we go. So now, as you can see, that I already have that ID as an attribute available here, and I just picked up the ID text and placed it here. So this is now an actual XPath. Let's try to do with a different attribute. Let's try to do this with data set instead, and I hope to get the same results. So the whole reason of doing this is to show you that you can actually create your own XPath. As you can see that now this is a valid relative XPath, so I could just use it here instead. Now, looking at this code, it's just one test that is going to get executed, and for me, when I wish to execute this code, I have to hit the browser first and then hit the URL, progress with the username procedure, and then follow through the test here, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just pick up this set of code and place it here. Reason being that this is the procedure that I might need to do over and over again for all of the tests. All right. So I could just add another one of those annotations for test, and let's just call it public void xpath add to cart. Let's do that. Add to cart. Don't forget the camel notations once you create the method. That's one of the attributes of Java. And I'll just pick this one line of code from here and place it here. So what's going to happen now is these two tests are going to run in succession. So what's going to happen is this is going to run the first time, then it's going to execute this test, and then it's going to close the browser. Then again, it's going to follow through with this line of code again. So now this setup is going to run over and over again, no matter how many tests I'm going to write in here. And I'm just going to, okay, yeah, it's already clicking here. And let's see, when I click on it, I am supposed to get something in my card, right? So let's see. Okay, so yeah. Now, as as I click on add to cart button, the button changes into remove. That comes with the remove text, right? So as we looked before how assertion works, let's find out that if the text of the button changes or not. So what it how about I okay assert dot assert true. Mm, let's say remove. Do we have remove yet? Yep, we do. So I'm trying to make things very simple here. It's mostly very. Mm, how about I put this? Let's see if it's the same XPath for the remove button as well. Okay, so it's not the same. For that, I have to get a new XPath, and as you can see that it comes with a different ID. I'm going to just pick this up, and I'm going to ask my script to identify if find element by dot ID, and when it comes to ID, I'm going to give it this, and that's it. Okay. I'm going to put this into remove, let's say string remove. Okay, so I have to pass in some action on this element as well. So let's try to get the text of this remove button and assert that the I have to make sure that the text here is equal to remove, right? So if this passes, that means that we are on the right path. Now, as you can see that there are two different play buttons available here. So what's going to happen is I can just run these two tests in succession, or I could just run each of them individually if I want to, right? So let's try to run this individually first, and then we'll try to run them in succession as well. I expect this test to pass. Okay, and let's try to run this one now. So as you can see, I can actually now both of the tests are passing individually. Now let's try to run both of the tests one after the other. So I expect the first test to run first. The add to cart is running right now first. That test passes, and now the other one is running. Source demo runs. So both of my test cases are passing. So as you can see, it starts to give me a report here as well. Um, Now that gives more of a structured look to my code, and it looks beautiful. As you can see that it starts with a before settings where I've just coined opening of the browser, the logging in process, and once I went through the login process, my other test starts to run. And once each of the tests runs, they follow with closing of the browser as well. So that's that's how a structured automation testing actually looks like with the help of JUnit uh, JUnit dependencies. Uh, that's all for this video today. I hope you enjoyed my content. Please do like and subscribe, and I am more than eager to look into your comments, and I read all of your comments. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.